Good morning, everyone. The dynamic is shifting. Not subtly with the specific, unmistakable, everything is different now quality of someone who has made a decision and whose decision has changed the energy of how they move in relation to you. What was restrained is no longer restrained. What was held back carefully, deliberately, for reasons that made sense at the time and that have now been outweighed by something more urgent is released. And what is released is coming toward you with a momentum and a directness that the previous holding back gave you no reason to anticipate. The chase is beginning. And I want to be careful about that word because chase in this reading does not carry the performative game playing quality that the word sometimes implies. This is not the strategic pursuit of someone running a calculated approach. This is the specific, genuine, I have decided and I am moving quality of someone whose decision to pursue you comes from the honest interior rather than from strategy. Who is coming toward you because they cannot justify not coming toward you any longer? Take what is yours today. What resonates, receive it. What does not, release it gently. But for those of you who have sensed something shifting, who have felt the specific changed quality of the energy quality of someone who was previously measured and is now something else entirely, this reading is naming what you have been detecting. Let me speak about what held them back, because understanding the holding back changes the quality of how the pursuit is received, changes what it means that someone who was previously restrained is now anything but. Soft sigh. The holding back was not indifference, was never indifference, was the specific, costly, this required real effort holding of someone who felt something significant and was navigating the specific question of what to do with the significance. Not whether to feel it, that question was settled early and in your favor, but whether to act on it, whether the feeling was proportionate to the action it was pointing toward, whether the ground was solid enough to move on to, whether they were ready to be the person who pursues rather than the person who waits to be pursued. Those questions required time, and the time frustrating, perhaps, from your side of the silence was genuine, was not the time of someone who was using delay as a tool or creating distance as strategy, was the time of someone who takes what they feel seriously enough to sit with it properly before acting from it, who needed to arrive at their decision honestly rather than impulsively, who wanted what they brought to be real rather than reactive. They arrived at the decision through the honest process, and the decision made deliberately from the genuine interior with full awareness of what acting on it requires is you. The pursuing of you heavily with the full committed, nothing held back quality of someone who spent the holding back period building toward exactly this. Hear what shifted in them, because this change deserves to be understood in the form closest to how it actually happened. Something clarified. That is the honest description of what produced the shift from holding back to pursuing. Not a single moment, the accumulated weight of many moments, of returning again and again to the same honest assessment of what I feel and what I want and what continuing to hold back is actually costing me. And arriving each time at the same answer, that the cost of the holding back has exceeded the cost of the pursuing, that what I was protecting myself from, the vulnerability of being the one who moves first, the exposure of being seen, wanting something before I know if it will be received, is less than what the continued holding back produces, which is the specific daily accumulating cost of wanting something real and not moving toward it, of knowing what I want and choosing the protection over the wanting, of watching time pass in the comfortable but ultimately insufficient territory of almost where the feeling is present and the action is not, and the gap between them widens with every day that the holding continues. I am done with almost. That is the simplest and most honest version of what changed. I am done with the managed distance, done with the careful calibration of what I allow to show, done protecting myself from the full exposure of someone who wants you and is willing, finally, past all the reasons that protecting felt sensible, to let that wanting be visible. In the specific, directed, I am coming towards you and I am not pretending otherwise quality of someone who has decided that you are worth the full vulnerability of the pursuit. Feel the quality of that shift, because that is not someone who has decided to pursue casually, who is reaching out from a comfortable position with little at stake. That is someone who has done the specific and sometimes difficult interior work of understanding what they want and why they were holding back and what the holding back was actually costing and who has arrived through that work at the willingness to be fully seen, wanting you, which is not a small thing, which is for someone who held back the specific and significant act of choosing exposure over protection. Now I want to speak to you about what being pursued heavily by someone who held back actually feels like, because it has a specific quality that lighter pursuit does not carry. Soft sigh. It feels different. The pursuit of someone who held back carries the weight of the holding, of everything that was building during the period of restraint, of the accumulated feeling that was present and contained and is now in the pursuing being released at the full size it reached during the containing, which is considerable, which is why the pursuing is described as heavy, not because it is pressuring or overwhelming in the unwelcome sense, but because it carries real weight. The specific, this has been building toward you weight of something that was growing through the entire duration of the holding back, and receiving that weight, being on the receiving end of a pursuit that carries everything. The restraint accumulated is its own specific experience, one that can feel, in the first moments of its arrival, almost surprising in its intensity, almost more than you were prepared for, because the holding back gave no indication of the size of what was being held. Let yourself be surprised, not destabilized, surprised in the specific, this exceeds what I expected quality of someone who is encountering the full size of another person's feeling after having had access only to the carefully managed portion Let the surprise be what it is, honest information about the gap between the visible and the real in what this person has been carrying toward you. And then be present for what follows. For the specific, daily, nothing held back quality of being pursued by someone who has decided that the full version of their wanting is what you deserve, who is bringing it completely without the rationing that the holding back required into the shared space between you. For the first time, without reservation. Whew. What do you do with a pursuit like this? Not strategically. There is no strategy this reading is recommending. Simply be there in the full, grounded, completely yourself quality of someone who meets what is coming with the same genuine presence that the pursuing is being offered with. Not performing unavailability to sustain the chase. Not performing availability to relieve them of the vulnerability of pursuing. Simply being exactly who you are, which is what produced the decision to pursue in the first place. Your actual self, the one they held back because of, the one they decided to pursue because of, the one that, when it is fully present and fully itself, produces in certain people the specific and unmistakable understanding that pursuing is worth everything the pursuing requires. That understanding has arrived in this person, past the holding back, through the honest deliberation, into the full, decided, I am moving toward you quality of someone who is no longer managing what they feel into something smaller and safer, who is bringing it at the size it actually is, in the direction it has always been pointed toward you. Let the chase begin, not as a game, as the specific and genuine movement of someone who finally decided that what you are is worth pursuing completely, without the holding back, without the careful rationing, without anything between what they feel and what you see. If this reading found you today, if something here named what is shifting and gave you solid ground to stand on as the pursuit arrives, stay close, subscribe, and come back. Because the story of someone who held back, finally deciding to pursue completely, and what that produces between two people who are both genuinely present for it, is one worth witnessing all the way through. And the next reading will be there for every step of what the chase builds into.